Hey everybody, Brody here, episode 5 of Brody's Garage. So I got the Nova mounted on the rotisserie, and today I decided to lower it and put it on jack stand so that I could get inside and work with a little bit more stability. First thing I decided to do was get out the vintage air unit components and do a quick kind of mock-up, because I'm going to end up filling in a lot of the holes in my firewall, and I needed to see where the vintage air unit is going to mount and to kind of see how that interplays with all that stuff, and make a kind of a rough decision where my hoses are going to exit through the firewall. And I also grabbed my AC control panel from Vintage Air and just popped it in the dash to see what that looked like, and already see a bit of an issue here. The contours in the hole in the dash are rounded on the corners, whereas the Vintage Air control panel has square corners, or pretty much square, and that just ain't gonna work for my liking. So I gotta also figure out what I'm going to do with that. Am I going to grind and round off the corners of the Vintage Air unit, or am I gonna somehow hammer or weld up or massage the corners? And so I have to make some executive decisions what to do about that. Next, I'm going to put the evaporator unit under the dash and kind of decide where that's going to mount. But before I can install the evaporator, I got to take out that cowl vent adapter donut there. There's an adapter ring there with a few screws that are held in, and I got this plastic delete plate from Vintage Air, so let's pop that in. So I got the block off plate in for the fresh air duct. It turns out I just had to drill one hole, and then it did fit okay. I'm gonna have to either get some silicone or some foam rubber to make a gasket for this, because it didn't come with one. Then I kind of realized maybe the first thing I need to get in order is the wiper transmission arm in place, because it tucks up there behind everything. And then, you know, from there I wanted to see if my defroster duct would fit, which it goes kind of, well, it goes up like this, mounts up to the dash, and then there are two holes back here which mount to this part of the dash, the back side of the dash. So the thing kind of goes up like this, and then I need to drill a couple holes. And first thing I realize is my drill will not fit up behind the dash. So guess what? I had to order a right angle drill on Amazon. It'll be here on Monday. The good news is it looks like that will work, that'll fit, and the wiper transmission arm will clear when it's moving. Actually, we got one hand free here, but it does this kind of a thing back and forth. And on this end is where the motor goes. The wiper motor spins this thing around, and it does this kind of motion here and pulls the shaft back and forth. Turns the wiper transmission arm, which then rotates your windshield wipers. It's one of those things where you start to install something, you think, well, I better install that first because that goes on behind this thing, and then to get behind that thing, I got to install this thing. So to do my evaporator, the first thing I wanted to do was make sure I got my defroster ducts up in place, and I got that fresh air block-off plate in place, which I did. Unfortunately, I can't install this defroster duct until I get my angle drill to get up in there. But while I was thinking about that, I thought I better install the wiper transmission arm back up in there, because that goes behind all that stuff, all behind all the ducting and stuff, you see? So I got that in there. I thought, you know what, I got the Detroit Speed internal mount wiper motor assembly, so I got that. And I put that on, and that's all fine. And included with the Detroit wiper was the Detroit wiper switch, the select-to-speed switch. Now right there in their instructions, what was weird is it came with a little nut and a lock washer on it, but that serves no purpose, so I just took that off. And then I realized that there's no mention of the nut and washer on here, and it just says to poke the thing through, you got to drill a hole, which I did. I drilled a little hole there for my little retaining knob to go through. But when you try to screw on the bezel, so screw this aluminum bezel on first, which I did, and it doesn't tighten up. The switch just rattles there. So I needed to form a little spacer. So I grabbed the washer, and I had to drill it out so that the center of the washer was big enough to go past the shank of the switch. So now, with that said, if I can find a way to hold the phone and do this. Okay, how am I gonna do this? I just need another person, that's all. I hold this between my knees. This is just ridiculous now. Right? Got it, between my knees. Got my washer, which you can see I flattened off one side to clear the little pin. Put that over there and it just fits over the shaft. Then I take my little aluminum bezel, get that on there, and thread it on. Give it a spin and voila. Now my switch is tight. It is tight. Nice and snug, and then I should be able to put the knob on there next. And the knob has a little Allen set screw. I'll have to get an Allen wrench, but I think we've established that the switch is in place now. Whew. It's a lot of work to get a couple little things done today. Let's proceed. Well, here's an interesting thing I just saw. In the Detroit Speed wiper motor kit, it says right there, if you're gonna be using the Vintage Air Generation 4 Magnum evaporator, which, boom, I have one right there, it says you will need to modify the outlet vents on the evaporator. For the wiper linkage to clear the evaporator, the top two outlets will have to be trimmed or removed and then closed out. So you see mine there, it's got the 4, and in their photo, they've cut the top one in half, and they took the second one off entirely. And I guess they just somehow grafted a piece of plastic over that thing. That's pretty crazy. So, this is gonna be a bigger job than I thought. So here I'm cutting out the portion of the firewall where the original blower fan used to stick through and the heater hoses. I don't need that. I want a smooth finish, so I'm cutting that out, and I'm gonna fabricate a new piece to fit in there. This is actually me putting in some speed nuts for the gauge cluster, which had to be trimmed to fit as well. And back to the firewall, I'm using the old elementary school technique of using a crayon and a piece of paper to find my edges, which actually worked out pretty well. There's my template, and there's me trimming it out with some tin snips. The gas pedal is going to have to be clearanced from the new transmission tunnel. It's November 1st, and I got a package in the mail today, and I'm excited and nervous. These are my wheels from Weld Racing. Let's pop them open and take a look. Oh my, that is beautiful. That is my Weld Racing S77 rear wheel. That's one of two. That is an 18-inch diameter by 10.5-inch wide. I forget the exact specs. I will put that in the description below, but I think it's a 5 and something back spacing, polished finish. And then we've got 18 by 9, is it 9 or 9.5? Yeah, 18 by 9 fronts. Well, I managed to cram all 4 wheels and tires in the back of the SUV, and let's take them down, see if we can get them mounted today and balanced, and see what they look like. So I'm getting kind of spoiled with the idea that every day is like Christmas around here. There's been boxes coming almost every other day or every 3 days or sometimes several in a day. Today, I just got my wheels from Weld Racing, and about 15 minutes later, they're delivering my new workbench and cabinets for the garage. So I'm gonna organize this garage and get it all ship shape, hopefully. Whew, well, there's a first glimpse of the wheels under the car, and I must say, freaking badass. I absolutely love these wheels. It was a bit of an ordeal down at the tire shop. I won't name the tire shop, but yeah, it was an ordeal. The tire company, after I got there, they said that, oh, we've got a problem. Your wheels are 19-inch and your tires are 18-inch diameter. I said, are you sure about that? And after doing some measurements and so forth and back and forth, we finally put them back up on the machine while I was standing there, and the tires went right on. So they're definitely 18-inch. Later, we also found that they could not manage to get the wheels and tires balanced. And after several attempts and at least 3 different guys trying, I decided to take my business elsewhere. They tried to tell me that basically my 4 brand new wheels are bent and that they're out of round. And maybe they are, but I'm gonna get a second opinion on that because I don't think so. But there they are. And now I'm going to measure, or at least try to measure, between the inner mounting flange to the other inner mounting flange to make sure I've got the correct distance or spacing between the 2 wheels for my rear axle housing and flanges and all that stuff. So after mocking up the wheels, and by the way, I took some of the cardboard, the little corner braces from the cabinet packaging that came today, and I crammed those up on either side of the wheel so I maintained at least like an inch of gap on either side of the tire, and tried to get them as straight as I could up inside the wheel wells. And I measured my flange to flange on the inside, and it's 52.5 inches. I confirmed it with TCI, and they said our standard rear end is 52.25 inches. So really, it's only 1/8 of an inch per side difference. I told them that's fine. So hopefully, once I do get my TCI stuff, it'll just bolt right in. Oh, and by the way, if there's one thing I've learned so far in this process, nothing bolts right in. So these are the new cabinets I got on the workbench. It's actually kind of a hybrid of the original kit that I ordered, and it's not going to work out with the spacing, so I'm going to have to kind of make my own sort of arrangement of this. But anyway, they're pretty nice cabinets, and overall, you know, pretty happy with them. Although, like, the very first thing that I set up was this locker cabinet. And first thing I noticed was couldn't get the doors open, and you can still hear it kind of pop, but the reason being was you can see how bent that side and this side are. And for some reason, when I got it, the whole top lip of the door was shoved underneath this lip right here. It's supposed to just, you know, come up to there and stop. But it was literally pushed underneath this. This top was bowing upwards, and you know, the box was fine. There was no damage externally, but it took like a pry bar to get these doors apart. I don't know. Other than that, pretty nice cabinets. See what we can do with these. Also, one thing that I kind of alluded to earlier in a previous episode, and I kind of finally got a chance to take a closer look, was that this deck lid, the trunk lid, was not bolted on this side. I couldn't really understand why. And I think I'm getting to the bottom of the reason why. I think that when, and this is just an assumption right now, it's not verbatim fact, but I believe my assessment is that this bracket was welded a little bit too low. It wasn't up high enough, because when you bolt the trunk lid snugly to this, flush with this, when you bring the trunk lid down, it hits up here, and it wants to start bending the trunk lid. Now, I did find this was laying loose in the trunk, a shim, which I assume was meant to go there, because what I did was I laid the deck lid, I unbolted it from the hinges, and I crawled through there today and got inside the trunk to look around and see what's going on the underside of these hinges. And when you rest the deck lid on top of here, it's flush on that side, and on this side, there's about a 1/4 inch gap back here where this bolt goes through. And I'm guessing that's what the shim is for. I'm gonna try it again, and I'm gonna see if I can make it work with the shim, but I may end up cutting this whole bracket off, top and bottom, and repositioning it upwards a little bit, and then re-welding it, because I'm not real crazy about the whole shim idea. Anyway, more to come with the deck lid, and I'm also going to do it with the weather stripping in place so I can really see how it fits the way it's supposed to fit. Hey kids, a final thought about today's episode, and that is I'm learning that pretty much everything that I've experienced so far, it doesn't come easily, and that's part of the process. I know that when this is all said and done, it's going to be worth all the headaches and all the heartaches and all the waiting and all the trial and error. Today was a day filled with some steps forward and some steps back. in doing some more research about the balancing of the wheels issue, I ran across a forum of some guys that had the same problem, and they couldn't come up with a solution. Well, in my internet research, I found a link directly from Weld Wheels' website. Let's say that all together. Weld Wheels' website. And right on their website, it says, our wheels are lug-centric. You cannot balance these wheels using a centric hub adapter. So in other words, you cannot mount the wheel via this part right here to the balancing machine. You got to use an adapter that grabs the wheel by the 5 lugs, in my case 5. And the problem was today at the place I took mine to, they had a couple of those adapters, but not the right one. So we weren't able to try that out. So I'm going to call around and find a place that can do the balancing using the lug mount situation, and I will report back with my results. But I think that may be the solution to this. Anyway, today was a day with some setbacks, but I'm moving forward. I'm optimistic, and most importantly right now, I got a really bitchin' set of wheels tucked underneath that car. One day they're going to actually be turning and like launching this car to a 9-second quarter-mile time. But for now, they're just sitting there. Anyway, you guys have a great evening or day or afternoon, and I'll catch you on the next episode. Bye-bye.